reading and learning is something I do in my professional life and my personal life. I think it's super important to constantly refresh the information and learn more. It's just the way I was brought up. But I read or listen to now. I listen to a lot of audiobooks, probably 20 books a year at least, if not more. But there's some books that are pillars in my running career. Now, I have a lot of leadership books. I read tons of motivational, leadership, finance, all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to running, there have been books that have been very important in my life. And I want to share those with you. And I've talked about it on this channel quite a bit. But when I got into running and I was a road runner, I did 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons, and I got into marathons. And I came across this book. Dean Karnazes, and I'm sure most of you have heard of this book. Dean Karnazes' Ultramarathon Man, Confessions of an All-Night Runner. This was the first time in my life that I ever came across the term ultra running or ultramarathon. Until I read this, and I think this book came out. This book come out. It was published 2005, 2006. And I have also read the updated version, the next book on this series too. But when I read this, I think it was probably around 2013 maybe. And I read the story, and what sticks out most in my mind was originally his story of just like running, getting drunk one night and then taking off and just running and eating a pizza on the run. I think everybody has heard that story before. But it's filled with really great stuff that I think a lot of ultra runners can relate to because it's this life stuff. What sticks out my most was his account of running the Western States 100, and that's kind of where I got that idea, that kind of bucket list thing. It really is tied to this book, and reading this book and listening, reading his account of his run through there, and it was amazing to me. It was one of those kind of awakening moments. Ultimately, I probably could read it through different eyes now if I were to read this book. But when I read it, I remember it amazed me, and it awakened my mind to the possibility of ultramarathons and doing a 100-mile race and stuff like that. So this was an extremely pivotal book, and I don't think I'm alone in that. I think there's another generation of people that got into ultras through like David Goggins and that mentality, who's going to carry the boats and all that kind of stuff. While I think there's a time and a place, and I actually do joke and yell that in races sometimes, I'm more of this generation of ultra running, more of the laid back kind of running, good or bad. That's just what it is. Very important book. The next book, which is a book I loved very, very much. I'm actually thinking about reading it again. Born to Run by Christopher McDougall. This book just was an amazing book to me. It telling the stories of everybody that's in this book, Jim Shelton and the crew and Scott Jurek and all of them back when they were just kind of running dirt bags and running races. And it was cool to me because it was a true story, which I found extremely interesting, that people could live like that they could run and just, I would love to do that. Ultimately, I would love to just kind of be able to kick back, travel, run races, have like a small tribe of trail runners and, live like dirt bags. But those days for me are over. I'm married with kids, and I don't think that will ever be in the cards for me. But it was really good to kind of escape and read about other people doing that. It's a very interesting book. Caballo Blanco in it, who passed away a couple of years ago, was kind of a story centered around him and the Tarahumara Indians, and it's a very interesting book. If you haven't read it, again, I'm going to link these books down in the description if you want to go check them out on Amazon. Great book, very pivotal, and just kind of, as I started training for the stuff, reading this, and it kept me motivated. Now, years progress by, and I become a UESCA certified ultra running coach, and that's the United Endurance Sports, Coaching Association? I always forget what the name of it is. So it's where I've been certified for a little over 3 years now, probably going on 4. Training Essentials for Ultra Running by Jason Koop. This is the book I came across when I went to go take my course and to become certified long course. Extremely informative. Again, this is part of my, running this channel and wanting to learn more. And if I'm talking about this stuff, I want to have it based in science and facts, not only in my experience, but on something that's more tangible and research. So, Jason Koop, if you know him, is extremely opinionated and smart individual when it comes to exercise science and running and all of that. So if you're interested in becoming a coach, you can take that course, the UESCA certification. That's a course I went through, and I've also gone through a recertification. We have to do it every 2 years. We end up having to take another exam or write a paper, a science-based paper on a topic in ultra running, just so it's not just, you get handed a certificate. You actually have to do some work for it. But this book breaks down everything from the psychology behind it, running, how to do training plans, nutrition, how to prepare for races. It's extremely informative. This is, you can see I use this book all the time. It's like a Bible for ultra running. It's just so much information on here that you can dig into, and the psychology behind it, the anatomy of ultramarathon performance, failure points and how to fix them, the 4 disciplines of ultra running, tracking and training in ultra running, environmental conditions and how to adapt, recovery modalities, train smarter, not more, organizing your training, strength training, activating your training, the short range plans, fueling and hydrating, adapting sports nutrition guidelines for ultra runners, mental skills for ultra runners, creating your personal race strategies, allowing you to kind of be able to create plans and stuff like that, racing wisely, and coaching guide to major ultra marathons. And it's such a good book, and it's, you can read it as like a research. Back in the day we used to have encyclopedias. For those of us old enough, this is like that. It's like a ultra running encyclopedia. Go in there and read. And I reread. I've actually read this book 2 times. 2 times. I've read it twice, and I've listened to it once. The listening to it took forever. This is an audio book. And what's cool about it is Jason Koop also does a bunch of interviews for people that were helped in this book. So on Amazon, if you want to get the listening version of it, which is good to listen to, but I had already read the book twice. So it just was a great addition to it, because then you're able to hear the interviews that Jason Koop did with individuals in this. It's extremely long. The book is not thin, but the audio to it is, it's like a podcast book reading. It's super informative. If you're into that kind of thing, if you're nerdy and you're into that kind of thing, it's extremely informative. Now I'm just going to mention some books that at the beginning were very, very influential. These were like pillars. These were like turning points in my running career. These 3, and cheat running. So when I was running roads a lot, dealing with plantar fasciitis and shin splints and getting beat up on the roads, cheat running was a very influential book. I like this. Just talking to me, what I remember most, and has been a long time, was just relaxing your legs from like the knee down, not being so stiff. And that's a very crude summary of this. So if you're just interested in a different approach to kind of injury-free type running, cheat running is a great one. When I was trying to build my own plans and learning more about that, I read this book by Brad Hudson, Run Faster. So this is road running stuff, from the 5K to marathon. So that was just me back in the day. And it's really about training smarter, racing smarter, avoiding injury, and the secrets of adaptive running. And this one came out, I don't know, probably 2014 or something like that. Very old book. This book came out, this book's probably, I don't know, 90s, early 90s. The lore, the running, very thick book. Another Bible type book on exercise science and training and the reason why you do things. When I first got into running, this was definitely something I looked at a ton. It's by Tim Noakes, a very famous book, been around for a very long time. And I was a long time subscriber to Runner's World. And Runner's World came out with like a comprehensive guide. And not only did I read, I still got Runner's Worlds back here. My wife's given away a bunch of them because I would never let her stop getting them. So it's like a present that went on for forever. And I read these things from front to back and went back to them over and over and over and over again. But the Runner's Complete Guide to Running, from your very first steps, burn fat, how to run strong, more than 1,000 expert tips through this. Like this book right here, I read all the time. And I don't even think you could probably get it anywhere, but I just want to kind of share with you that Runner's World, and I don't get it anymore, but this one came out May 27th of 2014. If you can get this, it's great. It's your road runner. It's really good. But once I started transitioning into like ultras, I stopped with all of the road running, racing training plans, books and stuff like that. I suggest if you're somebody who is a runner, read. I think everyone should read more. I try to push it on my kids more. It's harder for these newer generations, or at least listen to books. Every day when I ride to work, when I come home from work, I'm listening to a book. I'm constantly taking in information and learning. I do that with running, and again, my career, very important. But if you are interested in these books, I'm going to leave the links to the books down here, these main books, for you to take a look at if you want. And if you're an ultra runner, you probably know these books, but it'll be good information. So I thought I'd just share my favorite books, my favorite running books that have influenced me through the years and still do today. They still do today. So there you go. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.